AITAH for telling my son I'd love a divorce if it meant taking my wife with me. Story 1. My son and my wife have been butting heads recently. I don't think she needs the burden. The situation: my son is 19 and a freshman in college. We told him to apply to colleges where he could get merit scholarships. We don't make enough to pay $80K a year for college, and we make too much for financial aid at most colleges. He decided to go to an expensive private college to study art history. My wife and I were very upset. He took an intro to psychology course and thinks he knows everything now. He's home for break and he's been snapping at his mom too much. He came to me later and said that I needed a divorce. Boomers like me are miserable because they refuse to divorce when they're unhappy. I'm not even 40. I don't know how he connected my anger at him with my unsatisfaction in my marriage. He said that both my wife and I were miserable in our marriage and we'd be better off apart. I told my son that I'd love a divorce if it meant I'm taking my wife with me. I'd cut ties with everyone else. I didn't tell my son this, but she is the only thing keeping me together. My wife wasn't making my life miserable, everything else was. My son was upset. He said he was only trying to help me. AITAH? First comment. NTA. Psych grad here. In a professional sense, what he did was completely unethical, and any current psych degree course postdoc should have that built into their first few weeks in course. They literally drum it into you about ethical lines, not going around acting like you can mind read, not diagnosing people, the damn Goldwell rule. Your son needs a serious talking to. It's unfortunate that his grandma co-signed. For now, you'll have to just keep in mind she's a grown adult and made that choice. So you can't take the responsibility of worrying about that debt for her. Maybe your son needs some home truths. Tell him how shit you felt lately, both of you, and tell him how your wife is saving you on a daily basis, and that if he had any sense at all, he would support you both while you get through this rough patch with your wife's support. Let him know that it was his boomer gran who signed his loan because his millennial father knew he'd be saddled with decades of debt. I'm sorry. Your son's insufferable. Second comment. I disagree with the whole idea of you have to love and support him. The son is an adult. He's not a minor going to college early for some special dispensation scholarship or something. He's an adult. Love him, sure, but the parents are no longer under any obligation to support him whatsoever. Especially when he's taken all of 1 year's worth maximum of some psychology courses. He took intro to psychology and thinks he knows the deepest innermost workings of the minds of people who aren't him. He's a neophyte attempting to punch at the master's level, and it sounds like he's pretty far from the mark, which is sad for everyone in the situation. I do hope it is just a phase, and that he continues to learn enough to know that he was wrong. What the son needs is indeed some support, in the form of some hard lessons on reality. Dad should have put a stop to that bullshit right away, starting with correcting the idiotic idea that a not yet 40-year-old is a boomer. The youngest boomers are turning 60 this year, not 40. Dad is a millennial, if he's still under 40. There's an entire generation between millennials and boomers. Now, I suppose there's an argument to be made that son was using the term boomer as an ideological term to describe dad's opinions or advice or whatever else, but that's just as wrong and destructive as simply saying okay boomer in the first place. If it's dad's job to provide good support, then it's just as much son's job to reciprocate by keeping his mind open to the fact that he might just in fact be wrong. Doesn't sound like the case here though, so NTA. Son is though. At least with the info we have. Story 2. AITAH, my husband embarrassed me in front of our friends. My husband and I are both 28 years old, and we were hanging out with our friends over the weekend. There's this girl Sarah F21 that was at the hangout, and she's a fitness girly. Sarah was talking about her workout routine, and my husband started talking with her since he lifts, and they were talking about how much they lift. She also mentioned she's getting certified to be a personal trainer, and then my husband said my wife will be your first success story. He also said, yeah, she needs to lose weight, but she's been unmotivated, and maybe if she has you training her, then she will want to have a killer body too. I swear he said this in front of everyone. He had some drinks too, and some of our friends around us were laughing, including myself, to avoid this awkward and embarrassing moment. Sarah starts going on about how she used to be fat, and she turned her life around after losing weight, and how she majored in nutrition. My husband starts talking about my unhealthy eating habits, and how I eat all the snacks in the house, and I finished all the cake from my birthday in 2 days when my husband only had 1 slice of the cake. She was like, ooh, I used to be like that. I get it, I used to be 160 pounds, and my husband said that's about how much my wife weighs. Baby, how much you weigh? Like 165 to 170 now. I was fuming at this point. My friend got me out of there and told me that our other friend needed help with her something inside the house. I started crying in my friend's room. My husband didn't even know he did anything wrong. He thought he was just having conversation and trying to help, because I've been talking about starting my weight loss journey. I don't need her help, and I don't want her help. He goes, wow, someone's jealous. AW tried saying it in a cutesy way, as if this is funny like read the F King room. He thinks I'm overreacting. Throwaway account. I posted this on other subs. I really need to talk to someone. ETA people kept messaging me asking what my height is. I'll just add it on here. Sarah and me are about the same height. She's probably 1 inch taller than me, but I'm 5'8". First comment. At first I thought perhaps her. I used to be may have been her immature attempt to emphasize with the wife. But she should have just turned her attention to the wife, said something like, I would be happy to give you my phone if you are interested in working with me. Everyone should be in charge of their own healthcare journeys, and then just shut down all further discussion of the matter. Chasing validation from the opposite sex is a stupid game for many reasons. The thrill has a very limited shelf life, and the expectations are constantly changing both by popular cultures and each individual's standards. The healthy person should seek to feel good about themselves for themselves. Obviously, husband is an asshole. It doesn't matter if he's just clueless or intentionally cruel. The effect of his performance is the same. He doesn't value his wife's comfort or happiness, especially since he taunted her after she told him how she felt. If you choose to hurt your partner like that, you care more about your ego than you care about having a healthy relationship. I hope Op absorbs this lesson and plans her future accordingly. Second comment. Jane in Spain, who commented earlier, is absolutely right. He knew exactly what he was doing. Do not let him distract and deflect by pretending not to know he did anything wrong. There is not a single person who doesn't know that this is a sensitive topic. If your weight were not an issue for him, he wouldn't have talked about it. His behavior was incredibly unkind, even cruel. He obviously wanted to humiliate you. I would take this very seriously. As for Sarah, give her a second chance. She was in an unbelievably awkward situation, where a husband was flirting with her by dumping on his wife in public. By talking about her own weight loss, she was probably trying to make your husband realize that weight is not a big deal and that everyone struggles at some point. Nothing she could have said in that situation would have come across well. I realize that a short post here doesn't describe most relationships accurately. There may be things about your husband that are great, or maybe you need to stay with him for financial reasons, so I won't tell you what to do. But I would feel very concerned about the relationship if I were you. Do not let your husband minimize and dismiss what he did. I'd be insisting on going to counseling. Third comment. NTA, if your husband wants to talk about his own weight and fitness goals, he can, but it is very rude to volunteer someone else and talk about their weight and eating habits. It also seemed a little icky, like he was trying to hit on the fitness girl, telling her she has a killer body. He was intentionally putting you down in front of other people. Maybe he was hoping that shaming would motivate you, but that is not really a good strategy or a nice way for a partner to show support to help you reach your fitness goals. I don't blame you for being upset. I am glad you have good friends who have a clue and were able to extricate you from the conversation. You are NTA, but your husband is. I hope he stops being dismissive and actually listens and finds better ways to communicate and support you.